Welcome back to Real Geek Media. Today we are changing lanes and going into a little bit of true crime. We're going to dive into the twisted world of one of America's first serial killers, the infamous H.H. Holmes, known as the Murder Castle Killer. Story has elements of true crime thriller. It's very bizarre. Truths, myths, chilling legacy. I'm Hayden Stoll. He's author Christopher Michael Blake, and we are joined with our special guests, Becca and Ken, the founders of Freehold Ghost Tours and Ghoul Squad. They have stuck around. They're back for more. And we're here for H.H. Holmes tonight. Christopher, what do we got?
The pain and punishment for them is coming. It's too bad that they're still here.
Ready to go.
So, Hayden, I have to ask, imagine this. It's the World's Fair, 1893. And you're a single, attractive woman, not in a gimp outfit. You're touring the town. Maybe you have your sister or your girlfriend with you. And this nice, pleasant guy comes up and says, I have a place for you to stay for the night. Would you choose to go with him?
I mean, present day Hayden says no. Hayden back in the day, 1861, or what was this? What was the year?
1893.
1893. He might get suckered along into that because there's no internet.
Hayden, I think your boxers would be around your ankles so quick.
Oh boy.
The mustache on this guy, I guess he was a smooth talker, had a way with the women. When he would work at the drugstores, there were lines of women waiting to see him. Kind of looks like Billy the Kid, maybe a little, gunslinger-esque.
There you go.
But if you had gone with him, you would have found yourself in a labyrinth of untold horror. You're talking asphyxiation rooms, lime pits in the basement. But we're going to kind of start back in 1878 when, at 17 years old, H.H. Holmes is then known as Herman Webster Mudgett. And what does he do? He marries somebody at 17. That's what you did back then at 17 years old. Your life was over if you weren't married by 17. And, it's the truth. And unfortunately, he fleeces this new wealthy farmer's daughter in a marriage. And what's he do with the money that he gets from her? He goes and sends himself to medical school. I see Ken over there nodding. So apparently I'm on the right page still. And Ken, tell me what he does next.
Generally, wow, where do we start? So he goes to medical school.
Does he finish?
What's funny is I actually don't remember if he does.
He does not. He does not finish. He does not finish.
But I know that medical school will have a very great impact on his life. And I don't want to jump ahead of the gun here, but he quickly discovers that medical schools need medical cadavers for experimentation, for studying. And back then, it wasn't really popular to donate your body to science, but it also there was a legal gray area where you could sell a body to science and make a pretty penny off of that. And H.H. Holmes, being the
Entrepreneur,
businessman, if we want to call him that, he takes advantage of that. And by doing so, I don't want to jump ahead of you if you want to keep going ahead, but his business plan, it's very dark.
Well, to make more money, instead of just selling these bodies to the morgue or to these cadaver schools, he would take out life insurance policies on these already dead people. So after he gets done digging them up, he'd kind of set them on fire or something else and kind of hide their identity. He said, oh, by the way, I had a $20,000 insurance policy out on Hayden over here. And he's dead now, so you got to pay me.
Yep. Exactly.
So he's doing this, and as he's sending himself through medical school, there's kind of some allegations that, somebody kind of goes missing. So he goes quickly to New York. And while he's in New York, what happens? Somebody else says, "Oh boy, ends up missing." One of Holmes' questions, what does he say? Well, that family left and went to California. And before the police can come back and ask any more questions, he's already out, 1 foot out the door. And the investigation's kind of dropped. So this is like a repeat pattern for Holmes at this point, where he's going from one town to another, committing crimes, insurance fraud, got bodies, kind of still hanging on and having affairs and mistresses. Because again, he's a very attractive guy for that time period, well-spoken, had a little panache to him that women find attractive. Unlike me.
For that time period.
Well, for that time period, right.
I know you had to throw in. He was attractive for that time period.
Well, look, all serial killers are kind of attractive. I mean, look, we were showing the one guy with the tattoos all over his face he's getting love. Who?
I think I remember that. The bald guy, I remember that. I remember people. That was a controversy.
But people are sitting there writing him letters saying, "Oh, Judge, please spare him." And so then Holmes goes to Philadelphia, and he gets a job at a drugstore. And again, this is all before 1885, and he is now claiming he is a doctor, even though he never finished med school. I'm now Dr. H.H. Holmes. And while at the drugstore, one of the children who he kind of gives some medicine to, he kind of passes away. And before the police can even gather up any suspects, Holmes is already out the door. Didn't last long. He's gone. He's already fled Philadelphia. And by 1885, he shows up in another drugstore, this time in Chicago, Illinois. And this is kind of where we get the setting for Devil in the White City, the popular Eric Larson book, with the backdrop of the World Fair and the H.H. Holmes stuff. I actually thought that the World Fair stuff was a little better written than the H.H. Holmes stuff, but this is my opinion. So he becomes a pharmacist at this drugstore in Englewood. And while he's there, the husband of this woman passes away who owns the drugstore. So he says, well, I could kind of help you out. I'll run the drugstore for you. What she kind of disappears too. And not only does she disappear, when people were asking, well, what kind of happened to her? She was such a nice lady. Oh, she went to California to live with her family. They didn't mention anything about that. So at the time, he's still legally married to his first wife. But what do? He's got all these women coming over to him. They're all very attractive. His wife's still up in New York. It's time for a divorce, but I'm never going to serve her any paperwork. I'm just going to go ahead and get remarried because I'm a bigamist. So he goes ahead and does that. And then Holmes kind of takes over the drugstore himself. He's now running this, and across the street is the empty lot. Right? And he convinces people to back him and to put money into this trade. You guys know anything about how he was getting the money to finance this operation in terms of building this whole elaborate hotel that he was going to put up and drugstore?
I'm trying to remember it. I got to dust up on my H.H. Holmes history.
This isn't something that you just kind of remember. I mean, it's, I had to do research before he didn't come on here. So he was doing something interesting. Basically, he was fleecing companies. He would take loans out on the property to fund his lifestyle. And then while the loan was still being approved, he would go out and buy furniture and then take a loan out on the furniture. And when they came to collect the furniture, he would say, oh, it's already all gone, because he would sell it out the back door. So, and then they'd be like, yeah, what furniture? There's no furniture to take. Go ahead and repossess it. It's not here. And then he just kept doing that over and over and over again. There was a story about a giant safe he had installed in the back of the drugstore. And basically the only way they could repossess it is if they took it from the drugstore. Well, they put the giant safe in, and he had a wall put up so they couldn't remove it without damaging the property. And because that was in the contract, that they could only remove the safe he basically had dead to rights. He got basically a free safe. It's a smaller H.H. Holmes story, but that's one that's lesser known. But he also gets businessmen. What?
It's creepily clever.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I mean, this guy's because when you look at some of the murders he was committing, it was for financial gain, which isn't what typically serial killers nowadays portrayed on, Lifetime or whatever, or in the movies. It's all, because I'm a sick, depraved lunatic. So he has business people kind of invested into this property. I am going to put this giant hotel, especially when they announced the World Fair 3 years before that's coming here. He actually has them go ahead and start work on a third level of this hotel. But he hires not one, not two, but 7 different construction companies, going through and firing them one after the other after they start work so that he could build this labyrinth in this hotel. All right. Now, do you remember some of the rooms in there, Ken, in terms of what they had?
I do know there was one room, essentially, I believe it was, I got a term with the gas chambers, pump carbon monoxide in.
Yes.
Essentially kill them from there, drop them down into the basement where they would be incinerated, the bones bleached, and then, as we were saying earlier, life insurance policies and essentially being sold to medical schools. I do know there was that room. I know there was another one as well. I believe I might be thinking of the same one. But I know there was one that essentially the oxygen was cut off from as well.
Yes.
I don't know any of this.
And unfortunately, most people didn't know. But once they entered those rooms, there was no way out of those rooms. They were locked in. Only he was able to get them out.
In the bathroom, he had in his private apartment, which was in the front of the building, there was a trigger panel so that it would turn into a slide. He'd be able to slide the bodies down to the bathroom underneath the toilet, straight to the basement where he had a lime pit. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting story because he was married to his second wife at the time when he brought his third wife in. And yeah, this guy's a playboy, right? I need to hang out with this guy a little more often. So as he's got this third girl coming in, she's kind of wanting to hang out. She's from Texas. Her name's Wilkes. He's got to keep the second wife away from her. So how do you do that? Because she'd be yelling at from the back, who you talking to? She's very suspicious. There's a lot of women. Because what he's also doing is he's putting ads in the paper advertising for single businessman, wealthy, looking for wife. So women would be coming into the store all the time or looking for jobs as receptionists or whatever else. Some of them would never leave. Mm-hmm. But he was always, hey, I'm this wealthy guy. He was portraying an air that even though he was broke and he didn't have any money, this is who I am. This is the lifestyle I live. Hey, if you kind of want to come with. And of course, this was all under the nose of his second wife. What does he do? He puts some stairs in. And on the third stair, he has a trigger signal that it's kind of like causes like a rattling or something that he could hear throughout the entire building. So if she was coming down the stairs, he knew that was a signal that, hey, I got to get this chick out the door before my wife finds my mistress. Mm-hmm. People also speculated that if somebody was close to getting out and escaping from the murder castle, that was the trigger signal, so he'd be able to prevent them from getting out. So it was kind of like the double whammy in terms of everything.
He's almost like a super villain with a lair.
Yeah.
It's like so wild when you talk about the rooms in this murder castle designed to be a trap. Like Ken said, there's no way to get out of them once you're in it. And it's a gas chamber. I mean, this is just like diabolical stuff, like really crazy.
Yeah.
Like secret passages, hidden doors, like you're talking about, lime pit. I mean, just think about all of the preparation and just thought that goes
into hiding bodies and a mistress. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm still processing.
Yeah, it's wild. when you think about it, right? Because this is not like what you or I or regular people would think about. Oh, I'm going to build a hotel, right? No, I'm going to build a hotel, but it's going to have all these chambers and rooms and traps and elaborate things. Like, that's crazy. That's just crazy.
Some of the rooms had steel plate walls and floor so people couldn't break out of when they went in and tried to figure this stuff out. Some of the doors, the walls had hinges on them. Some of the doors didn't go anywhere. So you'd open the door up and you'd be like, it's a wall. So there was nowhere to go. It was a maze. Some of the staircases led up to nowhere. But only Holmes kind of knew where everything was. He also had a lot of peepholes in the building so he can kind of see where things were going. And it's kind of rumored that Holmes, when he got the people downstairs into the basement, before he offed them and started cutting them up because he had very sharp knives, he might start asking them, well, where's your money at? It was speculated that was going on. Like Ken had said before the podcast started, we don't know the exact number of people Holmes actually killed because he never told the truth. Even when they finally caught up with him in in Canada, they could never determine and get the number from him because at first it was like, oh, it was 6, and then it jumped to 133. But because of the number of people who went through the World Fair that year, we'll never know the actual number of people who disappeared.
I also can't help but wonder if it was a situation. If you guys have seen, I'm sure you have, American Psycho with Christian Bale, and the ending of that movie has always been debated. Did he actually kill the people or not? And I wonder if in his mind, in Holmes' mind, if because he was obviously psychopath. Did he think he killed more people than he actually did? Because later down the line, they found out there were some people who were still alive, and maybe he wanted to and never got around to. For some reason, he believed he did. The lies that he told, even about his Hotel of Horrors. I mean, we don't know. In reality, we really don't know much about him. We really don't, aside from the evidence we've collected over the years. I mean, his confessions some of them are just flat out fiction.
Yes. In case you were not aware, Holmes decides at this point he's got to blow town, and he tries to blow up the hotel himself, but he fails. So he takes off and runs, but the townsfolk are so mortified in Chicago about this building, they end up burning it down themselves because they don't want this to become a tourist attraction. Because they ended up posting a picture and an outline of what they believed the murder hotel looked like and some of the rooms in there. But even that was speculation because they had no proof or evidence. It was all just whoever they could bribe on the force to kind of give them some kind of different information. Yeah. Even the confessions that he ended up giving when he did get caught, he was paid basically by these newspapers to provide these confessions. So in case you were wondering on how Holmes had gotten caught, in 1894, he gets arrested for attempting to swindle a pharmacy in St. Louis. Of course, somebody turns him in, one of the fellow prisoners. He comes up with this idea: we're going to kill this guy for his insurance money, but you're not going to be really dead. And of course, he tells another convict about it, and the convict turns him in, realizing he's not going to get his cut from setting this whole thing up. But Holmes took the guy's family with him, and when he traveled across the border for Canada, he ended up cutting the wife and 2 kids up. And then when he went to, I believe it was Philadelphia after that, they found the body of the 7-year-old in the fireplace and all his teeth. So, they were following him for quite a while in terms of trying to track him down to all these different places. But like you said, was he a psychopath? I mean, do psychopaths usually do stuff for financial gain? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing to me. It's like narcissist, absolutely. I mean, if we're going for a DSM type narcissist, absolutely. Psychopath, I mean, I don't know if he was looking for a soul or I mean, I don't know what his true conviction was in terms of trying to commit. I mean, was it just for financial gain, or
It's got to be something off with you, even
Yeah.
if it's just for financial gain.
mean-
There's something.
It's a debate, going into the medical terms, sociopath versus psychopath. I mean,
I like that. I like that.
It's like, especially with, sociopath, essentially a developed mental condition. It essentially forms over time based on life traumas from a younger age, where the psychopath is just born like that. And I mean, the different categories, did he know what? Because clearly, I mean, he murdered children too. So clearly he had no remorse about that. But then you also do have the financial gain. I mean, if you look into the history of other serial killers, they weren't killing for financial gain. There, in most cases, I mean, if you look into others, Jeffrey Dahmer or so on, there was no money stolen. They were just doing it for the love of killing. Whereas opposed to this, there was a financial motive behind it. So I mean, it's unfortunately,
You can even say a sexual type of deviance with Dahmer and Bundy. At that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And
So
you have to wonder, was this going on with Holmes too? I mean, he was a known bigamist, and so I mean, I don't know. That's something that's not really discussed in any of the articles that I looked at. But it's interesting to speculate. Why are there no murder castles today? See?
The rent would be too high.
Hang on.
Oh no, that better be a cat.
I was hoping it was my cat, but it's not. Ken, if you don't mind. No, we have a window open. False alarm, everybody.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was caught
we
on
do
camera.
rule things out. I mean, I could be that person. Oh, we got a ghost on.
Did you see that?
Holmes just walked in. Yes.
H.H. Holmes, special guest. He's sitting down.
Welcome to the show now.
You guys have been now invited to the Twilight Zone. We have our own murder castle. If that can count.
I mean, I feel like there's a Lego set in here somewhere for the murder castle.
I didn't think of that. That's good though. I like that.
I think that would be like one of those special order Lego sets.
You know what's interesting about the murder castle is, so you guys know what they built on the site now?
Post office.
Yep. And from what
You're surprised I know that.
From what I understand is that, and double check me on this, I believe the basement of the post office is still the original basement from the hotel that runs it.
I know I've heard that, but I also know that H.H. Holmes had a weird request when he died. You remember what it was? He asked to be encased in concrete, his coffin, because he didn't want grave robbers coming and digging him up like he had done to so many different people. It's kind of like sick and twisted. It's like, yeah, I kind of did this to these people. I really don't want them doing that to me.
Yeah.
Did he get what he wanted?
Yeah.
Was he buried?
on the cement? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they did it because he gave them the guilty plea at the end. He was like, I'll say I'm guilty if you go ahead and give me this. Yeah, it was like one of those weird. And then he started writing all these confessions that weren't true. On top of that, so all these different newspapers, and everyone was different in terms of the body count. It's just like kept going up and up and up. And then the final letter he wrote said, I have the devil in me. So that was like the quote he was associated with.
Yep.
Yeah.
He really got, especially towards the end, it almost seemed as if he was enjoying the attention as he'd go, yep, I did this one too, and I did this one too, and I did this one also. And, at the time, I guess you could say early investigative journalists were, and law enforcement was when they started tracking them down. And I mean, towards the end there, it was, I mean, he's weird. He's very weird towards the end. I mean, he's just name dropping left and right. And I mean, once he's gone, that's it. Once he's killed, we don't get any more answers. And I mean, clearly here we are over 100, 150 years later, and still trying to solve this mystery. And he's, I mean, I don't know. This guy just he's something. I'll say that. Wish Matt was here. He would go into it even more.
Yeah, but again, for me, it's just why are there no murder castles today? Is it that people aren't that invested in killing people in their house? It's like, oh, that's too close to home. Or, I mean, we all kind of watch Dexter, where he has the code, but he's always doing it in sanitary places, but he's never doing it in his house.
I think you see, like, I've seen a whole bunch of stuff like in the past couple of years on Twitter and things where, people they'll go stay at a hotel and then they find this strange room that leads to a tunnel, and it like I think places like this do exist. I really think that there are places like this out there, but I think there's a reason why we don't know about them. Right?
That's a good point, Aiden.
I also think one of the things about H.H. Holmes is that he is considered America's first serial killer. In today's time, we know of Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Night Stalker. We know of all this. So when we go to certain locations, we're prepared. Like, if we see a sketchy hotel, we're gonna I'm not going there. We're gonna stick with like the brands. Back then, they weren't thinking. There was no fear that there might be somebody in the city, this building, there might be a serial killer in there, because they didn't know what a serial killer was.
The phrase didn't exist, if I remember correctly.
It didn't exist. And I mean, this is shortly after the Jack the Ripper killings in England, which we can go into that as well, the connections between there. But I mean, it's, even with that, it's okay, that's happening across the ocean. That's not happening here.
Right.
We're not worried about that. And he's doing it essentially out in the open where all these people are. They're not going to notice if Mary Jane from Arkansas goes missing. Who is she? They're not it's not. He's going after lower level people who do have money, but he's not going after just to pull a name out. He's not going after the Rockefellers. So
this might sound ignorant, but why? Maybe you covered it. I'm sorry if you did, but why were hospitals not questioning where he got bodies? Was it just that common of a thing?
Because they could be in trouble for procuring these medical bodies at this time. Mm-hmm. So it was it was looked down upon for them.
Gotcha.
They were still kind of back in that 16th century frame of mind where, we can't start opening bodies up. They were still, they were a little bit more advanced in bloodletting, but they were still, here, take some arsenic for that cold. It was,
Tussin. Also,
one of the inventions that H.H. Holmes came up with, he sold a washing machine to this guy for $2,000. He created a washing machine and had all these pipes and everything, and it looked like it worked. And he stuck his clothes in and it looked like it worked. And he sold the patent to the guy for $2,000. And when they removed the invention, and of course it didn't work, when they removed it, there was the lime pit with the hole going right up into the back of the thing, basically air drying everything. So it was just his way to capitalize further on stuff that he actually didn't do. I mean, this guy was just a pure, I think sociopath's probably a better word than
smart.
Yeah.
He was smart. But
just a pure liar. I mean, that's just
master manipulator.
Yeah.
I just and I sit here and I think to myself, what would it take to have no scruples like that, to take advantage and to prey on the weak all the time? And it's like, I don't know how well that kind of, again, this is just a very brief overview of H.H. Holmes. It's not in depth where we're going into specifics, and we're not.
Tune in next week, and we'll be broadcasting from the post office basement in Chicago.
We're going to go ahead there. We'll be there too.
You're not wrong, Aiden. You're not wrong. Yeah. I know that they refused people to dig up that area because they did do some excavations in that area. If I recall, Ken. I mean, I've watched a couple TV shows where they've gone in and they've done that, and they've never found anything though.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
not yet. Anyway,
they might be looking in the wrong spots, but I think that lime pit, I mean, this really probably just dissolved a lot of stuff.
I think he's not. He's a mass manipulator, a scam artist, but he's also, I hate to say it like this, but he's a genius. And I think that he covered his tracks. I think he had a plan that if he ever did get exposed, I don't think there might not be anything there. Maybe some of his tools might be buried there somewhere, but I don't think body-wise or anything like that, anything's left there. I think he got ahead of the curve and he got rid of whatever he could, essentially, before the place was taken down.
Yeah. Anything else for tonight, Hayden? I mean, that's really all I have about this.
I did have a question about, like, was there's some I guess people that believe he wasn't really executed, that he did escape? Like, is this like fact or fiction?
I have not heard that.
So that is a theory. Actually, I don't know if you're aware they exhumed his body a few years ago.
Yes.
There was a theory that it was not him in there. They thought that he escaped. His body was exhumed. It was buried under concrete. It was actually interesting. He was buried in a coffin. There was concrete buried above that, and then they put a fake coffin on top of that. So they really dig down to get him. And when they did find him, he was buried in the suit he wanted to be buried in. And he actually was essentially mummified a little bit. They said there was still pieces of his facial hair on him. That's how he was buried so deep down. They did do DNA testing. They did confirm it was him. There was like a 99.9% match with him, essentially, with a relative they had done, and they were able to conclude it was him. And he was then subsequently reburied in the same unmarked grave in Philadelphia. But they were able to confirm, kind of put that theory to bed, that he escaped. He did a Houdini out of there. And they did confirm it was his body. He was killed.
If I remember correctly, it was because somebody claimed that they were a relative of his, and it turned out he wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, no, I really, I appreciate you kind of chiming in, Ken. I really do. Yeah.
Interesting subject, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting. Yeah. So that was H.H. Holmes, master manipulator, a very chilling figure in American history. Again, we talked about the murder castle, and I mean, he's got a legacy in pop culture. We talked about the book Devil in White City. I know there was talks for some time between Martin Scorsese and having Leo DiCaprio making a film adaptation of that book, which would be interesting. I don't know if that's still something that is going to come to fruition. I feel like I hear a new Martin Scorsese movie, like idea with The Rock and some Hawaiian gangsters now, and I don't know what he's making next. So, but again, the story is very interesting, and it keeps raising questions about, what we talked about here. Is he crazy? Is he just something else? The evil, and how dark can this story get? But that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining us tonight on Real Geek Media. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. Anybody who's interested in this topic or our movie reviews and our interviews. Thank you to Becca and Ken for sticking around with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Want to plug your websites again, or?
Sure thing. FreeholdGhostTours.com, BeccaG_NYC on every social media platform, and
Ghoul Squad Paranormal on Instagram.
Awesome. Christopher, what do you got coming up?
This weekend, it's no longer Trenton punk rock. It is now New Jersey punk rock.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be huge, I think, this weekend. Hopefully it's a good turnout. And then May 5th, Asbury Park. Is that right? Is it
May 3rd, Jersey Devil.
May 3rd, yeah.
Asbury Park.
Devil Jersey, yep. And that'll be at Penhurst. Yeah, I'll be at Penhurst in May as well.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Busy.
It was the 3rd, right? Is that Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't scare me now.
I know.
Yeah. So that's what I got going on.
All right. Well, thank you
July
everybody for
1st.
joining us.
Yeah, July 1st, Midnight Macabre.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any updates on Crimson Harvest?
More rewrites, Hayden.
More rewrites.
Oh, we love the rewrites, don't we? We just love the rewrites. It's just never-ending rewrites. It's like, oh, I don't. Well, in case you weren't aware, I'm writing the script for an upcoming horror movie called Crimson Harvest,
Cool.
and it's going to star Felisa Rose and Robert Mukes from House of a Thousand Corpses, and so yeah, it's just one thing after another with that project. Though it's like it never ends.
Awesome.
I'm trying to pull the horse out of the mud, but the horse keeps getting in there. It's like,
Totally get it.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys for sticking around with us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Christopher and I are going to be talking about Airplane. Yes, I'm very excited. Join us then. Have a good night, everybody.